On this episode of This is Game Boy, it's a hard day's night. Hello everyone, welcome to This is Game Boy episode 12. I'm Belfic Gaming. And with me, I have Moelle.
Good evening, or morning, or night, or afternoon, or look, whenever you're listening, good, just a good to all of you.
I almost call myself eBloodyCandy at the start of the episode. Oh man! So before we dive into what game we're talking about today, what have you been up to, Mo?
Well, it's been busy. Like all of us are really busy lately. We talked about this in great lengths previous episodes. So gaming has been on the back in the back. What the back? I don't know.
On the back burner.
Yeah, there we go. On I that thing. But yeah, I've managed to squeeze in some games at least. I played Kirby Squeak Squad. I forgot the European name again. It's Mouse Pack or whatever. So yeah, Kirby Squeak Squad, which was the DS game for Kirby. I played it because I wanted to check out how it would be to stream games from DS. I don't have a capture card for my DS. It's way too expensive and very bothersome to get it even. I think there's always like waiting lines just to be able to get one. So I just tried it with an emulator. It works 99% fine, I would say. I don't see that many performance issues so far, but yeah, it's also not the most how would you call it, performance heavy game that you could have on a DS. So yeah, that one worked fine. I played through it today. I played a little bit on stream, but I finished it up this morning on my own. And then I checked out Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. I wanted to do that game for my Freight Train streams eventually, because I was gonna go through the Castlevania games in chronological order. Only played the very first one so far for it, which is what's it called?
Castlevania?
Yeah, but it has the not chronologically. It's not the normal Castlevania. Yeah.
Shoot, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, totally forgot the name. I could look it up right now, but it's the one where the entire story of Castlevania starts, at least.
Lament of Innocence.
Yeah, there we go. So that one I did play. So the next one in line would be Castlevania 3, which I tried a few times, but I'm really bad at it, so I haven't been able to finish it yet. And Order of Ecclesia falls way in the end of the timeline, actually. So I did just play it because I really enjoyed it, so I've been playing that a lot. I'm almost at the end of it. It's not an easy game. It's a really long game as well. It's in the style of Symphony of the Night. I'm not gonna name the genre, because we all know I hate that term. So it's a Symphony of the Night game, and yeah, it's really cool, but it's surprisingly longer in my opinion than Symphony of the Night. But I'm almost at the end, so I'll finish that up soon. Besides that, I haven't been streaming much, to be honest. I have been playing one other game on my own time when I have the chance, which is Binding of Isaac, which I always play. But
surprise.
I always play that game, but I am playing it again because finally on the Switch version, the European physical copy finally got the last DLC, if you want to call it that, Booster Pack 4 and 5. It took them 3 months after the release on anything else just to release that. I have no idea why. It's a German company called Heads Up that did the physical version for the European release. And apparently they had the same problem with the other DLC, that it just took them 3 months to either acquire it from Nicalis or from Edmund Macmillan himself. But I kind of find that weird to believe, actually. I'm not sure. So yeah, finally got it. Finally been playing with a new character, which is pretty fun actually. He has like a bone stick that you swing around, and you can also like go out of his body, but you're still attached to him. It's a pretty interesting character at least. So yeah, those are the only games I have been playing. Besides that, like we said last time, we're working hard on the new website. I finally managed to the design at least the templates, and I've been helping out filling the database for all the Game Boy games by scanning all of my games and taking pictures of the motherboards. So and some other stuff like some people, if you're following me on Twitter, you might have seen something about the Beethoven game on Game Boy. But yeah, we're doing a lot of research into that. So yeah, not been playing much. So that's pretty much it for me. What have you been doing?
Literally nothing. So I haven't been streaming much at all either lately. Simply because I come home and I start working on or helping with the Game Boy database or reading on how we should code the new website for pulling in such information efficiently and keeping our options flexible and whatnot for future designs and all that other happy stuff. So that's pretty much what I do after work now when I get home. But for games, I took a little bit of a break from Game Boy Adventure just because I want to rebrand it and I need a real logo for it, not just one I threw together in 14 seconds. But I've been playing a lot of N64 games. I've recently started collecting N64 because that library is exceptionally cheap right now. So I started collecting and I realized I'm not going to play any of these games I'm collecting, so I put it upon myself to start playing the games that I've collected. So in the process, I think I've played like 12 12 and 64 games so far, just in my collection alone. And I found some really unique Japanese ones, like DDR. Like I never knew there was a DDR game on N64. It was only released in Japan. The DDR pad is like $100 though. It's insane. I want one though. It looks cool. But that game is really fun, catchy music. There is a sumo wrestling game on the N64 that I have no idea how to play, but I really want to learn how to play it because it's a story driven game about sumo wrestling. Like that's all you do is sumo wrestle, and I'm just like, this is fantastic. But I honestly have no idea how to play this game. And I found another game that's like it's a more anime version of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Even more.
Yeah, like it's super anime, and it's a card based game, and you have health points. And again, I don't know how to play because I don't know Japanese.
All right.
So like, there's a lot of really interesting games that I've collected over the last like couple months for N64 that I don't know how to play, but I really want to figure out how to play. Outside of that, like Mo was saying, just fill it in database. I scanned all of my carts, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and that was an entire day project for me. I'm starting to slowly scan manuals. I also started getting into Virtual Boy again too, which is a nightmare in itself. Yeah, so nothing too crazy. I'm still waiting for Mo to get Dragon Marked for Death for the Switch.
Yep, it's coming the end of the month, hopefully.
I've had mine since the end of March. I've opened it and that's it. I haven't updated my Switch or installed it or anything yet. So, I've just been entirely too busy. So that's pretty much what I've been up to. N64, Game Boy database, and try not to go insane.
Yeah, the scanning of everything and taking pictures takes a long time. Like I just started. I have 348 Game Boy games right now. And I've done 27 of them in like 6 or 7 hours. It's just not like you scan 12 of them at the same time, which is cool and all. But a scanner is not really made to like scan 3D objects. So
No.
you have to put them correctly, or otherwise the light will come in and then the entire scan gets ruined. So I found at least a good way to do it right now, so I can do 12 at a time. But then I have to cut them all out, and then I have to open all of my cards and take pictures with my phone, and then I have to do it game by game, because otherwise, like, my phone doesn't name the image files, and I don't remember which board is which otherwise. So it's it's a lot of effort for something that should be really, really simple, actually.
Yeah, I haven't done. I've done a couple of board pictures. I was trying to find a way to streamline boards as well. I try to put the board into my scanner.
Yeah, I tried that as well.
The issue is that, like, since the board is uneven, when you scan it, it whatever is up against the glass is crystal clear, but there's a lot of information on the actual board that isn't on the glass that when rendered is blurry because it's not focused. So I was like, well, can't wait to do this for 200 and some odd Game Boy games.
It's a fun time.
It's a blast.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort, and it should be simple. But like, we don't have professional equipment or anything like that.
No, I have a 301 printer.
Yeah, like I have my printer is my scanner/printer is what, 12 years old, if not longer, and I was surprised when I tried it out that it actually got very good scanning done, so I was happy about that. But yeah, taking the pictures of the boards is probably the hardest part, because I have to use my phone, and then the light has to be correct, or otherwise I can't see anything, because if you put the flash on, then it's even worse. It's not a fun time. Luckily, winter is over, so it's getting a little bit more clearer through the day. So I have a lot more time frame to do those things in. But yeah,
winter is coming tomorrow.
No.
That's right. You don't watch Game of Thrones.
I do not. No.
I mean, it's winter where I am right now. We had snow for the last 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, today it has been snowing here as well, which is weird because it's also 7 degrees outside. But yeah, it's 7. That's Celsius, by the way, for American listeners. It's not 7 Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it's what, 30, 40 degrees for us.
I have no idea.
Something like that. Yeah, we have like 5 or so inches of snow outside. No big deal.
Yeah, it's weird.
in the middle of April.
Yeah, tomorrow it's 18 degrees. So the weather has been a little bit hectic lately.
Let's see. It's 38 out right now, which probably puts us at about 3 with you guys, 3 or 4 with you guys.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, not that much warmer here today then.
Yeah. Huh. Weird.
Mm-hmm.
You guys want to? I'll send you some snow. Don't worry.
No, you can keep it. Cause no, it has to be very good weather next week, because celebration in my village involves a lot of drinking. It has to be good weather because most of the partying goes outside. So it would be nice to have a sunny day at least.
We had brown snow because apparently, like, we got dust from Texas up to where I am, so it just made all of our snow like brown. I'm like, huh?
Okay.
Well, cool.
Yeah, that sounds very, very healthy. Anyways, whether or not you liked this little weather report we did, we're actually gonna be talking, of course, about a Game Boy game, because that is what we do, right? Because sometimes I forget that's what we actually do. But yeah, after this little break, we're gonna dive right into this month's game, which is called Night Quest.
Alright. Well, welcome back, everyone. Like Mo was saying, we're going to be talking about Night Quest. Not Night's Quest. Night Quest.
Yeah, because calling it Night's Quest was too easy, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, it's only one night, so...
Yeah, but it is his quest, so it is a knight's quest.
That's-
It's a weird name, if you ask me, because
true.
everybody's saying knight's quest. It just rolls off the tongue a little bit better than night quest.
Maybe it's a quest during the night.
It is not, though. So.
Oh man, this game came out fairly early in the Game Boy life cycle though. 1991, 1992 ish.
July 1992.
Yeah. So we had Lenar. Is that how you pronounce the developer? Lenar?
I'm gonna guess it's Lennar, but not sure because it only has one N in it. But yeah, no idea how to pronounce that company.
If y'all don't know who Lenar is, they are well known for Bird Week for NES and Famicom, and the best game ever, Deadly Towers, for the NES and Famicom. So we already know we're getting quality. Although the game itself, I think, is actually very good. Lenar is a weird company, though. Like, their quality of work and competency is honestly all over the place. Like, I don't know if they had multiple teams, or like, I don't know if they had like a bunch of people like do one game, and then those bunch of people left, and they brought in a different group of people that did a game, and then they left. Because like, if you've played some of their games, it is all over the place. Like, some of them are exceptionally good, or some of them are just exceptionally awful. And yeah, it's, I don't know. I honestly don't know how that company functioned back in the day, but I would be very curious if anyone knows, or is from that company that listens to this, how it all worked, and how so many genres became from that actual company itself.
Yeah, I actually do not know them. Like, my knowledge of the NES library is very, very tiny. So I've heard about Deadly Towers, but I'm actually not sure what it is. And Bird Week, no idea.
Bird Week is something else. It's a game.
Yeah, it kind of it makes me think of Garfield's Week or Week of what is that one called?
The Week of Garfield.
Yeah, for some reason that's the game I think of when I heard Bird's Week. So
yeah, I don't like Lenar. Like they were founded in '86. So they're a fairly old company. I want to say they're still around. But I think they do. If they do anything with video games now, I think it's music, or at least like instrumental pieces of it. But like they did Deadly Towers, like was one of their first releases. Deadly Towers and Bird Week, and then they did Gunpull, the Gunman's Proof in '97, which I've never heard of. It seems like they do a lot of Japanese, mainly Japanese games now.
yeah.
Which came out for the Super Nintendo. They had Napoleon Sinky, Battle of Kingdom, which I think they reverted to Knight's Quest, actually. And then GT Racing. And so they didn't make very many games, which I'm perfectly okay with. But, yeah, weird company. Weird company. And on top of that, they got this game, Knight's Quest, got published by Taito? I always call it Taito.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Taito, like like very fast, like Taito.
Yeah, Taito.
Yeah, but yeah, Taito is a, well, most people know that name. It's a Japanese video game developer, yeah, and it's a developer now, and a publisher of arcade hardware and mobile phones, which I did not know, and an operator of video arcades. So they have a lot of arcades open in Japan. Most of them that you visit, if you go over there, are actually all owned by Taito itself. So in the past, they also, of course, made home video games or console video games, but then they got swallowed up by Square Enix Holdings. So now they're actually a subsidiary to that, but they kind of kept their own name, their parent company, away from the entire Square Enix branding. But sometimes when you buy a Square Enix game, you might see that there's also the Taito logo in it. So they don't really make the games themselves anymore, but they're still involved in some of the projects. Mostly Taito, at least back in the early days, was known for producing some of the very influential arcade games. Actually, they came up with Space Invaders, they came up with Arkanoid, and they came up with Bubble Bobble. And I guess they mean like the actual Bubble Bobble games, with where you actually play as the Bub and Bob and not Puzzle Bobble. But I guess they invented that as well eventually. So, but yeah, that's a little information about Taito right there.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Taito. They had Kicks on the Game Boy, Elevator Action, which doesn't seem like a fun game, but it's actually pretty fun. Operation Wolf is another NES game. Jungle Hunt for the Atari. Like they've done a ton of games.
Yeah.
And yeah, like they are very big influencers in the arcade industry, old and new. So
yeah, most of the games you just mentioned are also basically arcade ports for console versions, especially Operation Wolf. That's like the very first how would you call those, like arcade shooters, I would say. Like,
I guess
that's like the earliest one that I can remember. It had like an actual machine gun mounted on top of it to shoot with, but they just removed the insides. At least the one we had over here was an actual machine gun. I'm not sure which type. Like the blocky one. Is that an M4? I'm not sure. It's like for one hand, but yeah, it's like a very blocky one. But yeah, they had that mounted on top of it to shoot everything. I loved that game as a kid. Great game.
Yeah, no, I remember going into the arcade and playing a shooter game like Operation Wolf, and it was like a real gun. Just all the insides were taken out, and I was just like, wow, like I'm holding I either have a sniper rifle or I'm holding a machine gun. Yeah, and it's like, well, this. Like, we want to have that anymore nowadays.
Yeah, no, like, years later, we had, what's it called? It came out on Super Nintendo as well, with Aerosmith. Generation X, which had, like, these huge futuristic guns, which was also cool, by the way. And you also had a Terminator 2, which came out at the same time, which also had a huge gun. But after that, they went into more toy-like guns with the Time Crisis series. Those were basically plastic guns. I do love the Time Crisis 2 weapon, though. I think it's really cool with the paddle. And then after a while, you also had House of the Dead, either 3 or 4, which came with the shotguns for the arcade games, that is. That thing was so heavy, you could not hold it for longer than 2 minutes. Luckily, there were a lot of cutscenes in that game, so you could take a break. But yeah, oh man, I love arcade shooters. Sadly, here in Belgium, arcades are a thing of the past, so you don't see them anymore. Even then, we didn't have them. They were just on carnivals. We actually had like arcade games, but now you can only find them at the coast. There are a few arcades there, but that's all.
Yeah, arcades here in America are weird. You'll if you go into like a really old establishment, like an old laundromat or something, or like a really old convenience store, they might still have 1 or 2 cabinets up. But outside of that, like arcades themselves are just non-existent here.
Yeah,
as well. Like I remember growing up, like we had like Aladdin's Paradise or something like that, or Palace, whatever it was called, where you walk in, it's just a giant building or a giant room full of arcade cabinets. Luckily enough, where I live, there is somebody bought like an old building and made a bar / arcade out of it. So in the middle of the building is a bar, but everything else around it is an arcade. So I can still go there, put in $5 for a bunch of coins, and go play Space Invaders or the old Donkey Kong or whatever else I want to, or play pinball, which I would never do. So
I wish somebody would open up a barcade around here. But the thing is, it would be a waste of money. because nobody cares in Belgium. So, but yeah, that would be so amazing because there's a lot of collectors here for arcade cabinets and things like that. So that's definitely not a problem. But yeah, the market is not really big on people who go to bars here. Are not really interesting to play video games at the same time. So, but yeah,
We have a lot of hipsters here.
yeah,
So
I would never come home again.
just put a bed up in the arcade. And just
No, I'm good. I'll just stay here.
As for the composer for this game, I literally couldn't find any information for the composer of this game.
Yeah, I tried looking at my video because I recently played this game, but it is one of those games that has an ending screen and then it's done. So,
Right. I knowing the history of Linar and knowing what they do now, I've leaned and assumed heavily towards Linar composing the music for this game. And just not crediting the composer, which is very, very normal back in the day.
Yeah, it is.
So that's what I'm more leaning towards because like I know what they've done and I know what they do now for the most part. So that's why I lean towards that. But I could be completely wrong. We would never know unless the actual composer came out and said I made the music for this game. So. Which would be great because then we can document it.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. That's gonna be a very hard thing to fill out in our database for sure. Composers, so yeah.
Yeah, composer's gonna be a little rough. But we have the plot of the game. This game does have plot. I think it has like 4 or 5 episodes. You do plots a lot better than I do.
Yeah, I have the link to the actual manual here, so I'm just gonna read the thing from the manual. Apparently I did this really well during my playthrough of it. Made it sound a little bit old Englishy or something like that. I don't know how I did it, but you said that.
Ye old?
Yeah, I wasn't doing it in the ye old, but just the way I was saying everything sounded very, very medievally. So I'll see if I can do that again, but I'm not sure. Okay, let's try this. Look you now, through the mists of time, to an age where our world was threatened by dread beast and eternal darkness. Then indeed was the land of Avalot sore beset, and her brave King Mowbray sent forward all the bold knights to defend these innocent people. Yet they were too few. Came at last a dauntless young lad, and he did train every hour, every day to become a knight. Mowbray and all of Avalot watched with great hope at this youth, called Will, grew in might and wisdom, until the day he faced the challenge and became a true knight, one of the last. Now did the king summon Will and name him a list of quests facing wizards, beasts, and perilous adventure, and so it was that Avalot's future depended entirely upon this one young knight. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. And nobody knows what actually the plot is right now, because even I'm thinking like, what did they say? Yeah, basically you're a young fella and the princess got kidnapped and an evil force is coming to ruin the land and you have to stop it, and you're the last one there. So it's kind of like Last Action Hero, but in medieval times or something.
Well, I think Will's not even a knight yet, though, is he? I think Will is just like some squire or some brave commoner who wants to become a knight, and in order to do so, he must go save the princess or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's the first mission in this game.
Oh, is that the first episode? Okay,
think
because
so,
like
yeah.
I can vaguely recall that Will's not a knight at the start of the game.
But he slowly becomes one. Yeah,
But yeah,
that
he
might
slowly
be true.
becomes a knight. Hence the knight quest. Because like the king obviously has a bunch of knights, like it says so in the lore, where he just goes, "Yeah, we have a bunch of knights. They're dispersed to protect the people of the land, you know. But I need my princess because she got captured. Please go save her, you know."
Yeah. Oh, it actually says here in the manual what the quests are, so I can actually go over them real quick.
Just the first couple.
So Sir Will's first quest is to defeat the Wild Goblin King. Indeed, the wise Will knows that before questing, a knight should go shopping. If he has chosen, okay, no, I'm not gonna read it. You really have to read the manual. It's actually a really cool manual. One of the few that actually put real effort into everything. But yeah, so first is defeat the Wild Goblin King. Let's see. The second, investigate North Cape. Then get help from Tabasa, which is an old lady wizard or something. And the fourth quest is rescue the princess. That's actually the final quest. That's right. She gets kidnapped. Yeah.
No, there's one more quest after the fourth quest.
Oh yeah,
there's five quests.
Yeah, but those are spoilers. So just go play the game. You can guess what it is, I think. But
I like that in the first quest, like it has a big blue bubble. Avoid the west until Will can gain new levels. So when I played this, I never read the manual, and I went west immediately. Get owned. It was fantastic. So more about that later on in the episode. But,
yeah, let's actually dive into what the game actually is, because we haven't mentioned that yet.
The game is a RPG, a very, very basic RPG. It is as basic of an RPG as you can get, in my opinion. It has a lot of charm to it, however. When you're first onto the overworld screen where you walk around and maneuver where you need to get to, as you walk through the woods or wherever else you need to go, the enemy sprites actually show up on the map, and they actually move. And depending on the type of enemy, it'll either move towards you or it'll move in a set pattern, which I think is a very unique thing to have in an RPG. I kind of compare it to Chrono Trigger a little bit, because when you play Chrono Trigger, you can see all of your enemy sprites on the screen. There's no, I walk 2 steps and magically my screen flashes and I'm fighting an enemy type deal. We all know how much we all like that kind of stuff. So it's really cool to see like what's coming up, what you're about to encounter. Maybe think of ways to avoid that encounter, which I don't recommend at all. So it's really fun to see that and really think strategy outside of that too. Like, how do I have 5 health. If I fight this thing, like if I don't know the weakness, which we'll get into in a second, like am I going to live or am I going to die? And then when you do encounter an enemy, you're presented a very, very simple menu, which I can appreciate. You have 4 options. You have fight, you have magic, you have escape, and you have medi, which is medic. This is how you heal if you have any potions with you. When you choose fight, you have 4 options to choose, and they're all based off of birds for some reason. You have swallow, falcon, seagull, and eagle. And every enemy that you encounter has a weakness to one of those attacks. So if you actually choose the right attack for that enemy, you will do a ton of damage to that enemy sprite. If you don't choose the correct one, you barely do any damage at all. There's like 2 really weak ones, 1 mediocre one, and 1 really strong one. So, and then going through that, you have magic. I found magic to be pretty useless in this game. You can buy spells like Fireball, which you can only use once. Basically, you buy your magic spells. You have a limited amount of them. However many you bought is how much you can use them. But I honestly found them completely useless. You have thunder. You have fire. Crystal, which is supposed to do a ton of damage, I think, or do something really crazy, but I can't remember what it did off the top of my head. Oh, here it is. Magic is truly the most powerful known to any knight. That's what crystal is, so take that as you will. Star is a blazing fireball, which, again, no one would ever know. Fang is a firestorm. Scroll is a volcano. An angel makes Will move at a very high speed. Again, things you would never ever interpret looking at the names of them. And then you have escape, which self-explanatory. If you choose escape, you try and run away from your encounter. And then you have medi, which is your medical. So you have 3 options for healing. You have a potion, which heals you for 20 HP. a potion 2, which heals you for 50 HP, and a heart, which heals you for 150 HP. I usually carried a potion around here and there just, so I didn't have to go into an inn and pay 10 gold to sleep, to heal up. That way I can just keep running with my life. But towards the end of the game, you definitely want to stock up on some hearts, though, because some of that stuff does hurt eventually. And as you progress through the game, as you kill enemies, you gain experience. As you gain experience, you level up. And when you level up, your health goes up. And I want to say your armor, your health goes up, and your armor also affects your health as well too. So along the way as well, you're collecting or you're upgrading your sword and your armor by buying them from a shop, and they can be quite expensive. So you have to do a little bit of grind, not a ton, but just a little bit of grinding in the game to get enough gold. And as you upgrade your sword, you do more damage, obviously. And as you upgrade your armor, you get more health. And as you level, you get more health. And I believe the max level in the game is 30 or 40.
Yeah, it's between 30 and 40. I think it's not a round number at all. I think it's like 32 or 34 or something similar like that.
Weird.
Yeah.
What a weird.
Yeah, it's
weird number to land on.
Yeah, like you said, it's a very basic RPG, and the same goes actually for all the items and equipment in the game. First of all, you only have one party member. You just play as Will, so you don't have to worry about any other party member at all. The only upgrades are Sword 2, Sword 3, Sword 4, and Armor 2, Armor 3, and Armor 4. So that it's not a deep equipment system where you can have shields and boots and accessories or things like that. The magic you can compare to how it worked in the original Final Fantasy, where you buy the magic, but it's just an item you use. It's not like a spell you learn and keep for the rest of the game. But yeah, they are pretty useless, to be fair. Because you can definitely use them to do a lot more damage to enemies you are facing when you're not at a good enough level actually to beat them yet. But the game is also made in such a way that you kind of want to have that, not the level cap, but like the necessary level that you need to get through the quote-unquote dungeons. So in the end, your normal attacks do as much damage as any of those magic attacks would do, except maybe Crystal, that always does a whole lot of damage, but it also costs way too much to invest in that. It's better to just get health potions then. Besides that, there's not much more to it. Again, the level cap is really low, even for an early RPG, in my opinion. Like, most of them went to 99, and that was the cap. Or Dragon's Warrior went to 30, I think. Dragon Quest, Dragon Warrior.
Dragon Warrior, I think it went to like 30 or 40. Yeah.
But that was mostly because of the limitations of the coding. As far as I remember, because they couldn't have too many integrals, or how it's called, I don't know, like, it would mess up the numbers for the games, because there wasn't enough space, let's just call it like that. And besides that, it's based on an overworld, but it's also a very, very tiny map, if you look at it. It's maybe a 5x10 grid at most, not including the dungeons. Those are not big. They're like 3 or 4 levels, consisting of maybe 8 screens at best. So getting lost in this game is probably not gonna happen, except near the end, where you are required to actually find a secret forest, which I just stumbled upon by accident, so I knew where it was actually. But sometimes it's not clear that you have to actually do that unless you talk to the people in town, which is of course a trope of an RPG. Like, you have to talk to everybody. luckily there's only like 10 people you can talk to in this entire game, so it's always self-contained very well. And usually at the start of each quote-unquote episode, they give you general directions like go north or go west, and you always get blocked off by a path you can't access yet anyway, so it does that pretty well. So you're not spending hours just trying to find where to go. Unlike Final Fantasy 1, which is, if you don't know where to go in that game, you might be lost forever. So they did that really, really well in this game.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 1 is pretty rough if you get lost. The game is, pretty linear, but you do get tools along the way. You do get tools along the way to like cut down trees, break boulders in your path. So there is like side stuff that you have to do in order to progress through the game too. So it kind of forces an adventure upon you, but again, like the maps are very linear, and you have to almost try to get lost in this game. There are a few little weird things with the game. The inns, so every inn costs like 10 gold to go into and sleep to heal up. Which isn't a lot of money at all. Like typically inns in general aren't a lot of money in RPGs, but like I'm always stingy when it comes to my money in RPGs. But when you die in Night Quest, you lose I think like half of your money.
Yeah.
It's very punishing to die in this game. You don't lose like any upgrades or anything, but you lose half of your money, and money is like your blood basically in the game. Like that's how you're going to get through the game, is with money. There's no like you can do stuff under level in the game. I did I think the third dungeon under leveled, and it was exceedingly difficult. I went through a lot of potions in that fight under level. Don't recommend it at all. Definitely recommend grinding some levels out and getting to the desired level the game wants you to be with that. Really, outside of that, that's pretty much the game. The game does give you passwords, so Mo mentioned between every episode, the game has 4 main quests and a 5th quest at the very end. And after you've completed each quest, you get a passcode. The passcode is like 20 some characters long. It's quite atrocious. And going through that, you have, if you're playing on Game Boy, you have to have a notebook and pen with you because we didn't have cell phones back then to take a picture of the screen. So, like, if you're on a road trip or if you're, like, in class, not in class, but in school, playing on recess, like, you're writing this giant long password down somewhere. And if you don't have a pen and paper, well, I guess you're out of luck, So, because there's no save feature at all. There's no battery in the game.
Yeah, you can always go to the king in this game for a password. So it's not only at the end of the episode. You can just always go get it, at least.
Yeah, you can go chat to the king and see what's up. My favorite thing to do, though, was that, going back to the manual a little bit, is that they give you a table for passwords and monsters and attack. So, like, they've definitely encouraged you to write down the passwords, and they definitely encouraged you to write down the monster and the weakness of that monster. So I thought that was actually really cool. And every monster has a weakness, a set weakness to it. It's not random at all. So, that's Night Quest basically. Quest 1, go kill a Goblin King. Quest 2, you go to some North Cape place. I think you need to. I don't even remember what the North Cape was. It was a cave that you had to go into, but you had to fight a wizard. Sorcerer? I can't remember.
I think there was like a dark tower that suddenly appeared near the beach. I think that's the second one.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah, and then third, you go into like what's the third quest? You go into that weird graveyard mansion. Yeah, that one was brutal.
The wizard.
Yeah, okay, that's the sorcerer, and then you have the fourth quest, which is saving the princess.
Yeah, from some kind of ninja guy.
Do we want to spoil the final quest for people?
I don't know.
I'm gonna spoil it because I like spoiling things. So there are 5 quests in the game, and the final quest is to go defeat the Black Knight. The Black Knight once served as the big bad knight for the king whom you are serving right now, and the knight felt like they weren't getting the desired pleasures that they deserved, so they left, and in a fit of rage, started doing bad things to the land. And when the king caught wind of it, the king was like, "Hey, Will, go. Why don't you go take care of the Black Knight?" So then you have to go and venture to, I think it's called the Dark Tower, Dark Lord's Castle, which is a castle you always see in the top left corner of the map, but there's never an access point to it. That's where Mo said you have to find the hidden forest, which you fly a dragon to the castle, and that's where you buy your final upgrades, your upgrade 4, your upgrade 4 sword, I think, or armor, one of the two, maybe both.
Yeah, when climbing up the mountain, indeed.
Yeah. So that is the entire Night Quest game, though.
Yeah.
Right there in a nutshell. Go play it. It's actually a pretty fun game.
Yeah, it's a typical story for like mostly every game. It's always like a guy trying to take over the world. I always have a question about that though. Like, there's always a guy trying to take over the world. Good stuff and all. I'm fine with that. They always do it by destroying the world. At least that's their plan. Like in Final Fantasy VI, for example, it actually happens. Kefka destroys the world. Why? You want the world, but you destroy it? Like, that's counterproductive, if you ask me. Like, can't you find another way to do this? If you want to rule the world and you have nothing to rule, then what's the entire point of everything?
Maybe they want to destroy the world and then rebuild it in their own vision.
That's poppycock. Like the same thing. Okay, and this is gonna sound word. Yeah, this is gonna sound word. So yesterday, for the first time in my life, I watched The Lion King. Yeah, I know. Wow. How many years am I behind, huh? But yeah, so I watched that, and I have 2 questions about about that movie. Because I like the movie. It's a great movie. I can't say anything bad about it. But it did raise some questions for me, and this kind of ties into that. First of all, the wildebeest stampede. How many freaking wildebeests were there? Like, that thing went on for like 5 minutes, and they just kept coming and coming. And I don't think there's even that many wildebeests in existence. At least not anymore, because most of them will probably have been hunted down.
Well, but yeah, that was before human interaction.
Yeah, but yeah, it lasted way too long. Like, Simba was in there for like 2 minutes before Mustafa. Is it Mustafa? Mustafa, that's it. Before he showed up, and then they were still running, and I was like, you guys are running away from 3 hyenas. There's something wrong. Anyways, that's fine, but all of it is, of course, because Scar wanted to take over the Pride Lands, which is cool, because it's a beautiful place. But then suddenly, in the end, everything is lava? Where the hell did the lava come from? I said, you have to cut it again, but... Yeah, I like, that didn't make any sense to me. But yeah, same deal. Like, why did he destroy the Pride Lands if he wanted to rule it? Like, it's a pet peeve of mine that I never will understand.
But you notice how quick the Pride Lands cured itself when Simba.
Yeah, immediately started raining and everything was well, because that's how it works. If there's lava and then it rains, everything starts blossoming again. Yeah.
That's how Hawaii works.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Can't believe you just now watched
Yeah. And next up is Hercules. Just saying.
Yeah, I didn't like Hercules. That's whatever. So now you guys get the plot and the gameplay. Cover art. I always like talking about cover art.
Yeah.
especially this one, because it is drastically different between America and Japan. Because I don't think you guys got this in Europe, did you?
Nah, it only came out in the US and Japan, of course.
Well, that's weird. That's weird that we skipped Europe.
Well, that will tie into something. One question we got from a listener. Well, our producer later. So that will tie into that at least. But yeah.
I mean, she probably listens.
Yeah, she should. I don't know how else she's gonna produce these things, but yeah.
So yeah, cover art. Two very, very different art styles.
Yeah, well, they are different art styles, but they actually are the same. Like the same. Yeah. The same thing is on it, but it's just in a different style.
Yeah, it's like the American version is a more realistic comic style, where like Knight's Quest has like highlights, shadows. Like it looks like someone took gold and wrote Night Quest in it, like the metal. And then as we go down, like off in the distance, on top of what looks like a volcano, is a castle, and then in front of it is this giant dragon with his tongue out, and the knight standing on the cliff edge with a sword in hand, which you never fight the dragon in the game. The dragon is friendly with you immediately.
Yeah, indeed.
So kind of deceiving there. And then in the Japanese version, I would say it's a very typical Japanese comic drawing, where it's really, really hard to make out the word Night Quest, because the Night Quest coloring really, really blends in with the color of the dragon in the castle. Mm-hmm. The cat, like the in the very forefront, you have your knight who is wearing a Ryu Street Fighter headband. It has red hair. It almost looks like he has a keyblade in his hand.
Yeah, actually.
And
yeah, wow, yeah. And now that you mention it, it sure does look like a keyblade of some sort. He also looks like one of the Fire Emblem characters, Mart, or the other one.
Oh, I've never played Fire Emblem.
Well, me neither. I just know them from Smash, but yeah, it looks like a Fire Emblem character. So.
And then, as we get towards the background, it looks like the castle, which is in a very ugly yellow, is sitting in some clouds floating in the sky.
I think it's supposed to be a mountain, and there's mist right in front of the castle gate. Well, it doesn't have a gate, but it has an opening. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's supposed to be like the summit of a mountain at least, and
okay.
But yeah, it
looks like clouds.
Yeah, the ground is in blue, in like nightshade blue, so it's kind of weird. Yeah.
And then behind the castle is this giant, generic-looking dragon that's in the same gross yellow as the castle. Yeah, two very, very different covers for this game. Like, if I'm looking at them, I would think, okay, Night Quest American version, I'm going to fight a dragon to enter this castle. And then I look at the Japanese version, I think, okay, I'm going to enter this castle and fight a dragon.
Yeah, yeah, it's the other way around. And you do not fight a dragon, so...
And you don't fight a dragon at all in the game. The dragon is friendly with you as soon as it appears.
Oh, weird. I know it gets wounded, but I don't think it's because of you. I think it's... Oh, right. The fourth boss was sitting on top of it. That's it. But you do not fight the dragon. You just fight the guy.
Yeah, you fight the boss. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Very weird. The US cover, for me, really, really looks like one of the covers from a Belgian comic called, well, translated at least, The Red Knight, which is based on... Well, it's not based on anything. It's just set in medieval times, and there's a knight who fights all kinds of medieval monsters like this dragon, but the art style of it looks a lot like that. Maybe I'll post a link to one of the covers in the episode notes or in the description of this episode so you can compare, but it does really resemble that art style, which is really cool. Not a big fan of the comic myself. I know my parents were, but yeah, it looks similar to that. And yeah, like I said, the Japanese one, for me, it looks like a Fire Emblem character, weirdly with a Keyblade in his hand, and then some weird blended Castle Dragon. Yeah, I don't know.
Poor coloring choice,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
Like the Night Quest in the Japanese text is like in that putrid yellow. The castle is in putrid yellow. The dragon is in putrid yellow. Like it is.
Yeah, and
This is one of the very few times I choose the American cover art over the Japanese cover
for
art.
sure. This isn't also the best quality of the cover, of course, because it's sometimes very hard to find them. For the Japanese
Especially
ones,
this
at
game.
least. But I think it's pretty close to what it's supposed to be. It looks washed out. Like the colors are not very vibrant or anything. So, yeah, kind of offsetting, sadly.
Yeah, it's really hard. I felt like some of these games that Mo and I talk about, like some of the lesser known games, finding any type of box art or cover for them is actually at a good quality is actually quite difficult. So
Yeah, we haven't really went into like complete Japanese games besides Nubo. But yeah, those ones, they're extremely rare to find. Usually they're like 100 by 200 pixel JPEGs that got scanned in like the early 90s or something, and you can hardly make anything of it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Reception for the game, I could find some. It wasn't a ton. But what I did find, it seemed like the game was received well. But I don't think it was sold well in either region. I don't know for sure, but like there's so few articles about like what people thought about the game. Like people seem to like the game, but no one. But and the people that bought it liked it, but it seemed like no one just bought the game.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a forgotten game. Like nobody knows this really, which is kind of sad. Like it's not the greatest game, but like
No.
it's definitely a game you should play.
It's a baby's first RPG is what I call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I found for reception anyway. But yeah, when we come back, Mo and I will give you our thoughts, more of our thoughts on the game and our history with the game, and of course the small little speed run section for this game. So stay tuned. Alright, welcome back everyone. So yeah, thoughts and history of the game. For me, I never heard of this game until it was requested by Zenik Reverie for Game Boy Adventure. I was looking to do an RPG. I wanted to do a quote-unquote short RPG for Game Boy Adventure. And Zenik chose this game. I don't know if Zenik played this before or not.
Probably. Like, if people, if people don't know, Zenik is one of the first people who started a Game Boy system challenge, but he does it quite slowly, mostly because the most games he's played so far are puzzle games, and those are always like 16 to 30 hour games. But besides that, he also does an RPG system challenge, which is literally every RPG that ever came out on any system, chronologically, I think. So I don't think he reached that one yet, because he's definitely not on the K in the alphabet, but yeah, he probably knew it because of that. He has a blog about RPGs, so it's always nice to look that up if you want to. Maybe I'll again post a link if I can find it.
Yeah, but when he picked it, so I usually put the box art of the game too on my screen, and I looked at the box art and I wasn't too excited to play this game just looking at the box art. It looks good, don't get me wrong, but it looks pretty cheesy for an RPG game. Not Wizards and Warriors cheesy, but still pretty cheesy. But once I got into it, I was pretty hooked on the game once I got into it. I think the first night I streamed it, I put like 5 hours into it almost immediately. I had a hard time stopping, and RPGs is one of my favorite genres to play. And I didn't realize how simple an RPG could be, and still be exceptionally fun while being exceptionally simple. And I like the fact that everything is like episodic. It feels like you're making a bigger impact on a bigger story than just like, well, you killed this guy, now move on to the next area. I like the fact that it's once you've done the main mission, you go back to the king, tell him what's up, and the king's like, cool, here's your next task. Like it seems like you're building up a story, like you're basically writing a book in a video game. And I definitely very much like that. The music, it's the music I could take or leave. It's not awful, but it's not great either. It's very forgettable. The gameplay itself, the combat I found to be really fun, but it's very repetitive, and that part that gets old, especially if you're stuck on a quest for a while. The enemies, there's a decent amount of enemies in the game, but they all share the same sprite, basically. There's only like 4 different sprites an enemy can be, it seems like. And seeing the same sprite over and over again for like 7 or 8 hours, it gets repetitive, and it can get a little boring in parts for sure. But overall, like I really, really enjoyed this game. This was probably one of my higher mark games for Game Boy Adventure. From what I thought was going to be a bad mediocre RPG, turned out to be a good mediocre RPG, and I was very glad to play it. How about you, Mo?
Yeah, you were mentioning the game a few times here and there in some of the discords. I had never heard about it before, and I think you won one of the raffles on my channel, so you picked this one for me. I had no idea what I was getting into at all. Like, besides knowing it's an RPG, I had no idea. And the RPGs I actually played on Game Boy are usually not that fun for me. Like not these types of RPGs, at least. Like Final Fantasy Adventure or Mystic Quest is an action RPG. That's like a totally different kind of game. But the only other RPGs besides Pokemon that I've ever played on Game Boy were the Final Fantasy Legends one, which is actually Saga, not Final Fantasy. But those I really do not enjoy because it's a weird system how your characters work. It's definitely nothing for me. So yeah, when I started this, first thing that came to mind was like, oh, is this gonna be like one of the Ys games or Wise? But it's called. You have to pronounce it Ys, but everybody says Wise, where you like bump into other enemies and you level up. But yeah, no, to my surprise, you actually go into a battle screen, and yeah, like we mentioned, it's a pretty simple battle screen. There's not that much to it. But I always also feel like this game is kind of a mix between a standard how do you call it, like not active time battle, that's just a quote from well, not a quote,
it's just turn-based.
Yeah, turn-based, there we go, that's what I was trying to find. But between an like typical turn-based RPG and kind of like a strategy RPG, which is also not really my type of game, a strategy RPG. I feel like I'm too dumb for those games. I never get anywhere. But this is like a good mix between that because it uses that rock, paper, scissors kind of way to deal with enemies, which is actually kind of cool. Like you said, sadly, it's a little bit repetitive. Mostly because you constantly fight the same enemies over and over again. They just have different names, so you know they're like the better version of it. But that's a thing, of course, in all...
The better
yeah, like the stronger version. Like This is on Game Boy, so you cannot do much unless you change the entire sprite, but they use the same system as in the early Dragon, well, they still do that actually, Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest games, where you always fight the same sprite, but they change the colors or something at least, but you can't do that on a Game Boy, of course, so they could only change the names. At the start, it was really easy to figure out which attack to use against which type of enemy, in my opinion. Like, it made perfect sense. In the later episodes, it got a little more, well, quote-unquote complicated, because you only have 4 attacks, of course. But yeah, they used it differently, and it didn't make much sense to me in the later levels. But yeah, once you found the appropriate attack, you could always use it. Sadly, I kept forgetting which one was the good one, so that took me a while to actually get that in my brain, which attack I had to use. Yeah, I never got lost in this game except for one time, right after I got the hammer. I had no idea where I had to use it, so I don't think I looked it up. I think I found it, but it took me like half an hour maybe, which is rare in this game, that you actually do not know where to go. I got beaten up by the third boss a lot, the one in the Ghost Cemetery mansion. That's where the game actually got hard compared to
that mansion's
yeah.
tough.
It suddenly became apparent that you had to grind. It was just part of it. You couldn't escape it. Like at the first 2 episodes, you can just blaze through, but then it suddenly is like, yeah, no, you're not gonna make it if you're not leveled up enough. Luckily, there is a level cap, so you don't have to do it that much. I think maybe I played it for 6 or 7 hours in total. 1 hour was maybe spent on grinding in total, and I was, I think, 1 or 2 levels away from the cap, so it really doesn't take that long. But yeah, sadly, it's just very, very repetitive, because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Like, even the enemies don't have multiple attacks, they just have an attack. Like, the bosses have multiple attacks, so that's pretty much it. But besides that, it's just the same thing over and over and over again. But yeah, I actually enjoyed this game. It is a really chill game. You can just really relax when playing this. There's not that much music in it, which is kind of sad. Some of the tracks are really good, but they're only like 30-second loops at best, so that gets boring as well after a while. But yeah, you're done with this game in 6 to 7 hours, so doesn't overstay its welcome or anything. So yeah, I kind of enjoyed this game.
Yeah, there's one little trope with the attacking sequence is when you attack, there are stars that pop up. So it goes for the enemy as well. When the enemy attacks you, there are stars that pop up kind of around you. And depending on the stars, I think is depending on the crit as well too. I think if you hit them with the weakness and get a 5-star hit around them, I think it classifies as a crit, which does obviously more damage. There's something with the stars that tells you how much damage you're going to do to one another. I did figure that out towards like the end of my playthrough, which took like 7 hours or whatever it was.
I'd never even noticed that. So yeah,
there's a lot of there's like a lot of very subtle things to the game, which I like a lot about it. I don't know, you gotta pay attention to a lot of like the little stuff. Like there's one house like you go into, like you can perfectly go into it one time and the person's super friendly and oh yeah, go talk to the witch, and then later on in the game, like you just can't even enter the house anymore because there's a guard in front of the door and the guard's like, yeah, this guy's under investigation. I'm like, oh okay. So it's like, okay. So it's just a lot of weird, quirky things like that. I enjoyed it. I don't know. But yeah, I dived into the speedrun of this. I don't know what the speedrun looks like at all because it's a long game and I don't speedrun RPGs. But Pianist Man has grand slammed this game.
For sure.
That's the terminology we use if a person has world record in all categories for a game. The any percent world record is 2 hours, 40 minutes, and 21 seconds, which is actually pretty long for a Game Boy speedrun. I think the Final Fantasy ones are like 30 minutes? Something like that.
Depending on, like, any percent for sure, especially, well, again, that this is an action RPG, but Final Fantasy Adventure is like, what?
Yeah, half hour.
30 minutes or something, I guess. Yeah, but you skip like
half the game, yeah.
75%. Yeah, you skip a lot in that. So, but you can't, as far as it's known by this point, you can't skip anything in this game.
Yeah, unless someone really wants to dig into it. But any percent is beat the game as fast as you can, by all means necessary. 100% world record is 4 hours, 17 minutes, and 57 seconds. This is hitting level cap and buying all upgrades, and I forgot what else it entails.
I think that's it, like level 4 sword and armor, and just the level cap. I don't think there's anything else.
And then low percent, I honestly have no idea what this means at all. Probably level 1 sword and armor question? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's could be anything else because there's not much
I would
else
look
you
it
can
up
do.
on
Like
speedrun.com, but I can 100% guarantee you it's not going to load. And that record is 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 1 second. So, and there's only 2 runners for the game that I saw, in a way, is Pianist Man, who has the world record in all 3 categories, and Flash Theory, who initially made the leaderboard, it looked like, way back when, with any percent and 100%. So, yeah. So that's the small speedrunning segment. If you're interested in speedrunning the game, there is a leaderboard up on speedrun.com. I actually have a write-up of this game telling you all of the weaknesses for the enemies and the bosses and where to go and how to do stuff. Like, I actually have a full-on write-up for this game. Just ask me for it and I'll toss it your way. And I'm sure Pianist Man is more than happy to help you through this game as well. Theorize, route, whatever it may be. Yeah. So yeah, when we come back, we'll talk about some community events, any viewer questions that we got, and we'll sign off. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. So, community events. Well, we're in marathon season now, so boy howdy. This weekend the weekend right now that we're recording this episode, there are 2 marathons happening. Pixels for Peace, which I'll be commentating KDL for in a couple hours, and Speedy Fist, which I'm running Shaq Fu in tomorrow. And then we have RGL's Retrothon, which will be done by the time this episode comes out, starting next weekend, or next week, maybe? Monday? I don't know. I know my runs are next weekend. That's all I know. But I want to say it starts next week, which is like a week-long retro marathon, speedrunning marathon. So I'll be running Fist of the North Star Game Boy. Help me. And I'll be running Titus the Fox Hard Game Boy. Help me again. I have to do a lot of de-rusting next week because those games do not come naturally to me. But outside of that, May 5th, which this episode will be out by then, I believe. Yeah, 27th. So yeah, May 5th is RPG Limit Break. There are a couple of Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games happening in that marathon. So definitely check them out. I'm always a big fan of RPG Limit Break because I like RPGs. So big fan. May 25th, we have the Tiny 10 number 9. Something, Mo and I may have heard of a couple times.
Maybe.
And then June 7th through June 9th is Power Up with Pride 2019. Their summer edition. Summer. I don't know.
I would. Well, wait. No, that would be spring because summer is July 21st.
Spring edition.
Oh.
Which I tell myself every year I'm not submitting to any marathons. I submitted 5 games to Power Up with Pride. It's a great group of people. I don't know. I love everyone that's in charge of that. So I hang out with them at GDQs and whatnot. And then at the end of June is SGDQ 2019. I don't think there's a single Game Boy game that got in, is there? Oh, I know. Looney Tunes got in by Winterbit.
Looney Tunes got in. So congratulations to Winterbit for getting at least one Game Boy game in.
Yeah, Looney Tunes got into SGDQ 2019, and Winterbit is running it. So I'm actually pretty excited to watch that. I would love to meet Winterbit. I've seen them submit to Handheld Heroes a number of times. So,
I saw the run because I'm the
admin.
I made the leaderboard, so I'm the admin of that. But it's a very young person, right? Or does he just look young, like me, for example, who is almost 32 and looks 16? But I think it's a very, very young person.
I have no idea. I don't watch Looney Tunes runs.
Yeah, I might be wrong. I'm sorry, Winterbit, if you're not. Well, or maybe it's a compliment. I don't know. Like, you look young.
I don't watch Looney Tunes runs because that game drives me insane. But I'll watch that at SGDQ if it's not at like 3:30 in the morning, which it probably will be.
Yeah.
And then we have Handheld Heroes, July 12th to July 14th. I definitely know a little bit about this marathon. Submissions are open until... I'm an admin for this marathon. I don't even know when submissions close. I want to say till like the end.
May 15th.
Okay, I was going to say till the end of May, but I
think.
So get your submissions in. All handheld systems are welcome. Game Gear, please. Submit Alien 3 and Shaq Fu on Game Gear. Atari Lynx, Wonder Swan, anything handheld. Switch doesn't count. Virtual Boy doesn't count. Sorry. So,
yeah, and a very, very tiny laptop doesn't count either. So I asked. Like a very tiny one you can hold with one hand.
Yeah,
it does not count. I'm sorry.
I submitted 5 games to that marathon too. God, I need
Like always, I haven't submitted anything because I cannot say if I will be around to even run on it. So yeah, maybe somebody needs a commentator for a game.
Just submit Darkwing Duck.
Chip in there. I haven't played that game in over 2 years.
I'm playing Fist the North Star and Titus the Fox next week. I think you can do Darkwing Duck.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh man, viewer questions. We actually have questions.
Yeah, and one of them is not.
One of them is not easy at all. Yeah, no. Thanks, Legs.
Yeah. So Lex, great.
So yeah, question from Legs, viewer. Yeah. How did?
Listen, see, I said this in my light, which came out. We have written down viewer questions. I really should change it to listener questions. It's unbelievable.
Oh man, how did Game Boy RPGs sell compared to standard platform puzzle stuff? Were they like a less popular? For some reason, I assume so.
Were they like a lot less popular? Yeah.
I don't know how to read. English isn't my first tongue. Were they a lot less popular? Mo and I talked about this off recording a bit, and Mo has some numbers to back up some claim, I believe, but I honestly think it really depended on the title of the game. I think if it said Final Fantasy in it, I think it sold probably fairly well, or Pokemon, things like that. I would say sold fairly well. Something like Night Quest, probably not so much because no one's ever heard of Night Quest, there's no like, there's no so the word I'm looking for. There's no connection to any like bigger titles for it. So like nothing like you can't connect Night Quest to Dragon Warrior or Night Quest to insert other big RPG name in there. So I feel like a lot of times that title would probably just get overlooked. And RPGs in general for handheld are a tough sell to begin with because a lot of Game Boy games early Game Boy games didn't have a battery associated with them because it cost more to have a battery inside of the cart. So you had to rely on passwords to progress your game. The market for Game Boy wasn't just children, like it was also adults, like professional adults. Hence why there's so many puzzle games on the Game Boy. It was meant for commuting adults. That's why they would sit on the tram or wherever and play a puzzle game on a Game Boy for all that downtime traveling. So for an RPG, like you actually have to invest a lot of time into an RPG. It's not a quick, okay, I did 2 levels, I can turn off my game and turn it back on, I can do 2 more levels, turn off my game. I have to commit X amount of time to get so far to get a password, and then once I get my password, I can turn off my game. So I think RPGs are a tough sell for Game Boy just in general because of the lack of batteries early on.
Yeah, for sure. And the things I can say about these are, first of all, RPGs back in those days were not very popular outside of Japan. Like, you did have Dragon's Warrior, and you did have the first Final Fantasy on NES, which were hugely popular. You always have to see Game Boy came at the end of the NES life cycle and the start of the Super Nintendo one, but the games that came out in the early days, like Night Quest, which is 92, which is the third year that Game Boy existed, like, they didn't have the name like you said, like nobody would know what they would even be, but that's also the reason why when Seiken Densetsu, which is Secret of Mana, as most people know it, came out on Game Boy. The very first game, it was called Final Fantasy Adventure in the US, just because that Final Fantasy name, so people would go and buy that game. But Final Fantasy wasn't a thing at all in Europe. We had never heard of that. So here, that game was just called Mystic Quest, which did not sell well at all because like nobody knew what it was. So in America, it was easier to sell at least the Final Fantasy Legends games and the Final Fantasy Adventure game because people knew what Final Fantasy was. And that's also, I have the list of the 53 most sold games on Game Boy. I don't know why it's 53, but it has a lot of... Yeah, it also has a lot of Game Boy Color games in it, but there's only 2 RPGs on that list. One being Final Fantasy Legend 1. And I'm guessing 2 and 3 are not on the list because, like I said earlier, it's actually Saga and not Final Fantasy as you know it from the NES. Games. So I think the first one sold a lot because it had a name with it, but I think a lot of people like me are not really fond of the Saga series at all. And then the other one, and that's of course the big whopper when it comes to RPGs on Game Boy, is Pokemon Gen 1. Not even yellow, just like red, blue, green. That's the second most sold game besides Tetris, but that came with the Game Boy. So yeah, so that doesn't count. So Pokemon is the best-selling Game Boy game of all time, which of course is normal. But yeah, that's also the tipping point in Europe for RPGs. Because when that game came out, everybody knew, oh, this is an RPG. This is a really cool concept. At least a lot of people, but not all of them, because people are still just buying FIFA and COD. But yeah, that was a huge tipping point for RPGs in Europe at least. After that, my first RPG, because I did not know what RPGs was, I just called them a Pokemon type game. My first one after that was Final Fantasy VII, which was a really huge release in Europe as well, because the other ones never came out here before that. Well, maybe they did, but nobody knew about them at all. We didn't have 1, 2, which is actually 4, or 3, which is actually 6. So after that, it got a little bit easier to sell RPGs on a handheld system as well. And by then it was 1996 or 97. Most of the games came with batteries as well because the production costs were lower for it back then. So you can see a lot of remakes on the Game Boy Color system, like Dragon Warriors Dungeons or Monsters. Dragon Warrior Monsters are very, very popular Game Boy Color RPGs. And then you had the Game Boy Advance, which comes with so many RPGs that you can't even count them. You have the Fire Emblem series, you have the what are they called? The remakes of the Secret of Mana games. You have Golden
Final
Sun.
Fantasies,
Like you could see it. Yeah, you could just see it bloom back then. Well, from then, just because of how popular Pokemon was, and it just introduced an entire new continent to RPGs. Besides that, I think I don't know what they are called. I guess people call them American RPGs, the ones where there's more like a dungeon crawler thing going on. Those that came out on PC, like always medieval things, like Baldur's Gate and those types of games. Those were popular everywhere, but those were PC games, so they were not tied to any of the big like Final Fantasy or Dragon's Quest or Ys or any other RPG series you can think of. So I think
1969.
Yeah, no, that was a very
then.
long time ago. That was the disco and cocaine era. No, we say numbers the other way around in my language, so that's why I got confused. 96, 97 for Europe was a tipping point. Then everything got hugely popular for RPGs, and they sold really well. But before that, yeah, it was just...
Man, your first two RPGs were bangers. Pokemon and Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Man, you were spoiled off the get-go. My first RPG was Final Fantasy I on the NES, and I never finished it. And I still have never finished it to this day.
Yeah, I finished I think the PSP version of it, which is the best of, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. I got lost as a kid, and yeah, when you get, like we said earlier, when you get lost in that game, whew.
Yeah, nothing tells you where to go in that game.
My second really RPG dumb. Was Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, that's a great one. That
whole era.
That is kind of a mix between turn-based and action RPG.
Then my second was Chrono Trigger, followed by Secret of Evermore. I guess and then Earthbound. And then from there, I played Final Fantasy 7, 10, pressing forward. Pokemon, obviously. But, yeah, I don't know. But I also honestly think, too, that, like, even if you look at, like, some of the Super Nintendo stuff for RPGs, like Chrono Trigger sold well probably because it has Square associated with it. You know, and Square is known for Final Fantasy. But Earthbound, like... sold awful, poorly, but it's one of the, in my opinion, one of the best RPGs on Super Nintendo, and I think it sold poorly because Nintendo marketed it poorly in Nintendo Power. Because in Nintendo Power, Nintendo put like, man, this game stinks, and it put like a barf bag or whatever it was next to it, you know, like it.
Yeah. And a scratch and sniff.
Like it was a repulsive magazine article for the game. And in result, like it sold fairly bad, but the game was phenomenal, you know. So like a lot of it comes down to marketing as well. So and with Nintendo Power, like there's only so many pages that they can print. So Nintendo Power was obviously picky about probably Game Boy games, you know, as well, putting into there. So some of the Game Boy games that got highlighted are going to be more of the popular ones that they know are going to make them a lot more money, like your Mega Mans, your Final Fantasies, your Metroids, whatever.
Yeah, I'm actually putting together a Nintendo Game Boy Power out of all the issues
Nice.
I actually have, which has all the Game Boy articles in it. There are some weird choices that they
I
made
believe
to
it.
make like even 4-page articles. Well, articles they're always half walkthroughs basically, but there's some weird choices that I've already seen. One you might be familiar with, a little epic game on Game Boy called
Oh
Super
my
Hunchback.
god.
So yeah, it's weird. Like I'm trying to put that together, but I don't know which was the last issue that actually showed Game Boy games. So I only have up until 1995 anyway. So we'll see. But that's gonna be cool. It's already 200 pages. I'm yet. Oh man, sometimes my English. I'm only in 1992 yet. So yeah.
Huh. Super Hunchback. What a game. PTSD right there.
Yeah.
I remember when I chose Night Quest for you, when I won your raffle, you're like, you're just going to choose Super Hunchback because you're just going to pick a crappy
Yeah, I
game. I'm
thought
like,
you
no,
would. Yeah.
I would never do that to you. And I ended up picking Night Quest for you. Now,
Yeah.
Legs, on the other hand, I'd pick Super Hunchback for her. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Our second question. This is more of a speed. Maybe a casual. I don't know. It is from Pianist Man. Are the boss's weaknesses set or random? So I died on every boss but the second boss in the game, and from what I could tell, every time I went back to fight the boss again, their weakness was set. So I would use the same attack over and
Mm-hmm.
over. Now, whether or not that is randomized on the start of the game, I have no idea. And I don't know how to check that without playing through the game again, and I'm not going to do that. But from what I can tell from my experience of the game, dying, refighting the boss fights and whatnot, everything seemed like it was set. Nothing was random at all. However, there is a weird quirk with the game, and I don't know if it's based off of the stars or what, when you hit the enemy, is that even if you hit them with their weakness, it still won't do a decent amount of damage. But if you hit them again with that same attack, it'll do a bunch of damage. So I'm not sure if there's like a blocking mechanism or some sort. Or like a diminishing return mechanism in the game. I don't know, but I've definitely have witnessed that in my playthrough of the game.
Yeah, I've seen a few crits during my playthrough, but I had no idea why they would happen or yeah. In other games you kind of have equipment that increases your critical rate or something like that, but in
It
this
just
game you
seems
have
all
no
random,
idea,
yeah.
so yeah.
That part anyway, the crits and everything, it just seems all random.
Hmm.
But the actual attacks themselves seem set. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all the questions we got. We're
Yeah,
doing
that's
it. All
all.
right. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all for us. You got any more to add, Mo?
No, I'm good. I'm
All
good.
right. So yeah, like always, any thoughts, suggestions, whatever else, please let us know in the comments in SoundCloud, or you can hop over into our This Is Game Boy Discord. Obviously, you can reach out to Mo, Legs, and I. Always open to feedback and reception of the podcast. Always trying to make it better, one episode at a time. Especially when I choose the right microphone for my program.
Hmm.
So yeah, you can find me I almost said eBloodyCandy again. At Belthic Gaming on Twitch, Twitter, and and in Discord. Looks like I changed my name in Discord as well. And my YouTube is still some random ID because I don't have enough subs. So please go sub to my YouTube so I can have a good YouTube channel name. Where can they find you, Mo?
Yeah, for me, you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, all with the same /Moelle. That's MOELLEUH. I don't have any other social media, so if you do happen to find somebody named that way, I don't know, it's not me at all. So same goes for if you find somebody under the name MOELLE, which is actually really my nickname, but I never can get it. Those are always some random German people that got that name, so that's not me.
I have an
Definitely
Instagram, but I never post to it. I think my last Instagram post was like 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, I never take pictures, so I wouldn't
don't
even
either.
know what to do on Instagram. Like the last picture I took was from the wound that my cat got, so I don't think people are interested in seeing that.
I don't know, man. Social media is weird, so
Yeah.
And you can find our wonderful producer Legs, SprintingLegs on Twitch and Legs in Discord. I think it's just Legs on YouTube.
She has told us like 17 times already, and I still can't.
Or
remember.
it's up to you. You can just go to gbrunners.com/TIGB, and all of our info is there as well too. So
Yeah,
that's the easiest way to do that. Do you want to sign us off, Mo?
Okay,
the next game
so,
that it was your pick for the next game.
It's my pick for sure. Yeah, so we're gonna wrap this one up. No more questing for the knights today, but the next time we get back, and I guess it's the first year anniversary episode. So we're gonna do very, very, very special things, of course. Like talk and
fireworks
and say stuff. So yeah, put in some fireworks, Legs. And screaming children as well. So yeah, for for the next episode, did you?
I wrote that down. That's the quote from the cartoon.
Yeah, it's one of the, because he always says something different. But maybe not without spoiling the actual game. I'll just say, I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the winged source that pecks at your nightmares. I am the next game. So, yeah.
Got him.
Got him. Yeah. I said I wasn't going to say. So, so when we get back in a month from this episode, be very excited, because this is my game. This is
Mo's game.
The one game that people actually know me from, speedrunning. So that's something you almost never hear. So yeah, thanks for listening, everybody, and you will hear us again in a month.
Goodbye.
Later, man. I just think Lex should put in random screams of children in this episode. Just just random.